Hi, I'm Deanna. Are you ready to ditch the I'm not good enough story and start rebuilding from a place of worth? Each week, we dive into the messy middle of transformation, real stories of reinvention, career pivots, and people who rewrote their identity and their lives. I am not here to sugarcoat. I'm here to wake you up to what is possible. So if you're ready to reclaim your power and build the life that feels like home, you're in the right place. Welcome to Worthy and Rewritten. Okay, I want to welcome Krystina Rossworm today to Worthy and Rewritten. Today we're talking all about resilience and a lifelong journey of resilience. I'll let you share your story, but from what I know now, it's like I don't know how I became this resilient, but somehow I'm able to just pick myself up. So welcome, Krystina. I'm really excited to share your journey today and your stories with everybody.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here and share some of the crazy things that have happened in my life and why I'm still smiling and being who I am.
And you know what? This is what I'm really hoping that people can take away from this is that we can go through so many challenges, big, small, huge, like things that we think are going to take us down forever, but we are as humans resilient. And so that's what this show is all about. So, you say your story of resilience goes way back. And
Yeah, it does. I came from a very interesting family. So, just to give you a quick little background, not to get into too much, but I'm 50. So, I went through the 80s and 90s in school. And I think a lot of women have either learned to become resilient, like the Gen X era of my age group. We are naturally resilient. We're like that last generation of latchkey. They literally had commercials on television. Do you remember those commercials where it's like, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are right now?
yeah,
So I was raised during that time. I grew up in Surrey, and I went to a Catholic school. So like, talk about resilience is learning to navigate Catholic school, like a private Catholic school way back in the day when they didn't have, diagnosis like ADHD or autism and things like that. So one of the beginning parts of learning how to be resilient is trying to navigate what nuns would tell me and what my parents understood of me being very different than everybody else in my class. I'm diagnosed high ADHD. So when you're different than everybody else and they want to pigeonhole you into especially a very strict secular way of living, and you're a very different person, you have to learn how to navigate that. And I think one of the biggest things that I did was back then I would try to be myself, but at the same time try to conform to what everybody was teaching me to be, like be quieter, don't be so loud, don't be so energetic, you're too out there, those kind of things. So for a very long time, I believed that there was something wrong with me, and then I would have to put a lid on myself to be able to survive through those kind of, I guess, times when, especially for girls, because girls were not, if once the ADHD thing came out and they were talking about that, it was always boys. They were hyperactive. They couldn't sit still. Mine presented differently, although I was very hyperactive. I actually remember this one time where they literally tied me to a chair once in my
what?
class. Oh yeah,
No,
grade 2, and the teacher tied me with rope to a chair to keep me, from moving around. And that was the
unreal.
stuff that I had to learn how to navigate and go through. And I had parents that both worked. So I had a different upbringing. So I was one of the few kids that I knew that was raised with like a nanny back then. Like, it's much more common now. So my dad traveled for a living, so he wasn't really around. And then my mom, in her 30s and 40s with myself and my brother, she would have to like work all day and then come home and take care of us. And that was always very challenging to go through. So I rebelled quite heavily in my teenage years, like a lot of kids in the 90s. So I did a lot of rebelling and ended up moving to the Okanagan. I came out here for a party and then never left, and called my parents when I was 19 in 1994 and told them I was staying. So yeah, that was pretty challenging, and ended up back then I ended up falling into the wrong crowd. How in depth can I go with this?
You can go in as
Okay.
depth as you want.
All right. So yeah, I ended up falling into a pretty wrong crowd, started doing a lot of drugs back then. I was just a very broken young girl and was sexually assaulted when I was 20 by a known person that the police knew. It kind of changed me.
Oh, I
And then
bet.
I ended up meeting my first husband when I was 19, 20. I was 20. And he I felt like he was my savior. And so married him right away. Like we were 21 when we got married. And he had a pretty heavy drinking problem back then. And so I thought, how do I deal with this? So naturally, I was like, oh, you know what fixes a marriage? A baby. So I had my first child at 22.
Okay. So
Yeah.
planned though. You're like, this will fix everything. This will bring us
Yeah, this is
together.
gonna fix things, and then it didn't. So then what? I know, weird. So I thought maybe we should have another one because two might actually make him grow up and be those things that I needed. And he was incredibly jealous and worked in the bar industry, didn't want me to have a life outside of him. So then once I had the kids, I was quite stuck at home. And in 2003, my ex-husband had a massive accident. He fell off of a SkyTrain station, crushed the whole left side of his body, died on impact.
Oh my
He just
goodness.
happened to be with somebody that was one of his buddies that was with him was an off-duty paramedic. And the SkyTrain attendants wouldn't touch him because he was bleeding out to death. He fell 36 feet. And his buddy actually brought him back to life enough time for them to bring him to the hospital. And I had two young kids. They were 1 and 3 at home. And got the call that he was gonna die. So
Oh,
off to the hospital I go, and it was okay, this would be a very resilient story. My sister actually I have a foster sister that, stayed with us when we were teenagers, and she went into labor at the same time that my ex-husband went to have this accident, and I had a girlfriend driving me, and I was her birthing coach, so I was driving from Surrey Memorial to Vancouver General Hospital throughout the night to try to help her birth, and then when she through her labor, I would drive to make sure that my ex would stay alive, and then they would be like, "Okay, well, he seems to be stable. Okay, off I go, drive back to the other hospital." And this went on for about 13 hours, and then he ended up stabilizing. My niece was born, and I had to go home to my kids and take care of them and be a mom. And it was really challenging. And he ended up with a brain injury, enough of a brain injury that his family and him didn't accept it, but I saw the massive change. So after that situation, I decided that we should move to the Okanagan because we were living on the coast back then to be closer to his family. And when we moved to the Okanagan, he ended up falling in with a biker gang, and I had no idea. And so I had to basically do like a Dear John exit strategy, leave the Dear John letter, slowly pack my car because he didn't want me to leave the house. He didn't, the kids. He was jealous of even the attention that I would give my children. He would get very upset that I was taking care of them. He would get very upset if I was talking to his pregnant cousin. Like it wasn't just men he was jealous of.
anybody.
Like it really did. And then he um basically went like down this very awful path. And so I had to figure out a way to leave him that was safe for me and my kids. So I ended up packing up my car, telling him that I was going to my mom's back on the coast to go visit my mom for Mother's Day. And then I left. So that was pretty hard. I had to go and find a job and take care of my kids. And meanwhile, my ex-husband decided he was going to camp out outside of my parents' house in a truck. And I didn't know this at the time, I found this out later, but my mother-in-law, who is a mass enabler to his son's behavior, or to her son's behavior. She would call my mom and say that, Courtney is really good. He really loves Krystina. She needs to give him another chance. So then my mom started being like, you should give him another chance. So I ended up going back. And I know a lot of women who go through very abusive marriages, they end up going back a few times. And I did. I went back twice. We ended up in 2005 moving back to the Okanagan, buying a house, and I went and got a job. It was a part-time job. And my ex-husband worked at the old Roses.
Okay.
Do you remember Roses
Yeah.
here? So, and it wasn't the best environment for somebody with an addiction issue. So there was a lot of drugs and a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. That again, I knew about the drinking, but I had no idea that he was doing all these drugs. He would come home with these sores all over his body, and I'd be like, "What's wrong with your arm? What's going on?" Like, he'd be like, "It's an ingrown hair." I'm like, "God, that ingrown hair is really bad." Like, I was to what was going on. And during that time, he became more and more abusive and scary and like tracking me, not wanting me to have friends. I wanted to go back to school to, get a better job than just working at the bank for back then it was like $12 an hour. And he would just yell at me and tell me that I was getting a job to leave him. Ironically, I was getting a job to leave him. I was going back to school to leave him. I was doing that, but then I would
That's why
have
he didn't want you to, because then you'd
want
have,
me to
yeah,
work.
you're powerless, then he feels
Yeah.
in control and safe. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very extremely difficult time, and my poor kids lived through that, and that's going to be some of the things that I know that for the rest of their lives they're going to have to navigate their own trauma through. So that is in a nutshell up until that point. I when I finally left, the breaking point was I got a job with a local media company, and I was really excited, and I wanted to buy my own car. And so, because I needed it because I was in sales, and I had this ability to sell. I had no idea. And I had the personality to sell, and I got this awesome job, and my mentor and boss at the time was like, "You could go really far." And I'm like, "This is awesome. I'm going to do this." And I went home and I told my ex that I wanted to buy a new car, and he lost his mind. He told me that I was going to buy the car to leave him. Everything that I did, if I talked to my friends, I was doing it to leave him. Everything I was doing was to leave him. And he yelled, screamed. He never physically laid his hands on me. And years later, I figured out that because I was like, oh, he never smacked me around. So it wasn't that bad. But he would do things like punch
Emotional.
by my face to the wall, throw things, threaten my life. And he forced me, I don't mean to laugh because I have a very sick humor, but he forced me to give him head so he would sign the paper for me to get a vehicle. And 2 weeks
Oh my,
later, I left and I actually kicked him out. I found this amazing strength in me. It was like, I was like, that's it. Like the things that he did on a regular basis to me is a book. Like it was awful. And I covered it up. I hid it from family. I made excuses. I did all the things a battered woman would do. And even though I never considered myself in an abuse, like I knew I was in an abusive marriage, but I didn't really come to terms with it until years later. So speaking of resilience, this one day I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I came home and I just felt this incredible strength that just came into me. And I was like, I'm done. You're out. I've called the police. They're coming. You got to get out of this house. And I caught him off guard enough that he didn't know what was going on at the time. And that was the only way I could get out. So then he left and I literally went down to Rona and changed the locks on my house
that a girl.
to protect
Yes.
my kids. And during this time, I just got this new job and I would be like going to work and I'm like, yeah, by the way, my husband and I were separating. I have a no contact order. He's not allowed near me within like 100 feet. I'm going to go do a sales call. And I would like go off and do sales calls and put a big smile on my face and then get in the car and cry and then go to the next one or get a call that he was, loitering around my home or trying to pick the kids up. So I sold the house and moved, and he wasn't allowed to know where I moved to. Eventually, once the divorce came through, I started allowing him to see the kids again. But by then, he was quite far gone in his severe alcoholism. And during that time, my career skyrocketed. It was it was insane. I became one of the number one salespeople in advertising, and I was killing it at work. And I managed to buy my first home. And all during this time, Courtney would call or show up. Like eventually, he knew where I lived, and we tried to make. Like I always had this idea that, well, he's not that bad, and you know what? He's the father of my children. They should see their dad, all this kind of stuff. But my kids would start calling me and be like, Dad fell asleep in the tub and he won't wake up. So then I would
Oh my
have to
God.
go to the house and like kick the door down to get my kids and take them out of there while I was navigating a 100% commission career. So I
Wow.
would have to like, do sales calls and then go and pick them up from school and then bring them to a safe place and then go to another sales call. And then so I think
You're
that's a
saying this
pretty,
with a you're saying this with a smile on your face, but what how are you feeling at that time? If we take us back, I heard like sometimes I'm getting in my car and I'm having the breakdown.
like, honestly, looking back, and it's funny, it was because I'm just going through another situation where I have to be resilient in my life right now, and I'm like 50 and thinking to myself, is this ever going to end? But then I know that the world just throws things at me that pushes my strength all the time. And so I was kind of reflecting on some of the things that I've managed to survive and go through. And back then, I just remember just trying to find. It wasn't even it was what I was thinking and feeling. I was in a constant state of anxiety and fear, but there was also like this determination inside me that always wanted to survive it. Like I didn't just want to survive and be one of those women that, had like is living in poverty and have nothing and this ex-husband and trying to rely on the system. So I really just wanted to push everything aside and power through everything. So I'm very well known for like powering through these extreme situations that have been thrown at me in life. And so I would smile and laugh, but I don't I did a lot of therapy.
Okay, because like, yeah, the therapist in me wants to go, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
We can do some pushing through, but is this
Yeah.
manifesting in other ways? Okay, so you have though allowed space for because again, you sound like there's this resilience, but if we don't give that space to the challenges that have happened, the emotions that came from them, the trauma, they
Yeah.
play out in other ways. So you have
They
given it
do.
space. Okay.
Yeah, they do. For me, they especially like with my ex-husband, they have played out in the not the best ways in my marriage. So like I do have this mass amount of defensiveness that I work on. So I have to like anytime my current husband will be like, "Hey, you left something out." I'm like, "Bleh."
Oh, it is still playing out.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's still playing out.
your
I feel
defenses
like
come up.
it still comes up, but then I will be like, okay, bring it back. I'm not being attacked. This isn't as bad. He's just pointing something out. Let's step back. So to deal with that kind of stuff is truly, I think, it's a learned tool. Like it's a lot of times trauma, even though you can see really good therapists, which I have done over the years. I'm in a constant state of therapy. I love therapy. I've got a great therapist right now, and I'm always working on it. Like, what is the next way to deal with this? Like during my separation and divorce, I did have this incredible therapist that I saw every week, and I would just go in. It didn't matter. I remember going and seeing him and saying, I am not going to be married to another man like this because so many women repeat their patterns. So I was like in this room and I was like, What do I need to do to never have this happen again? I don't care if you tell me I have to jump on one foot and pat my head and rub my belly every day for an hour. I will do that. What do I need to do to get over this? Because I am not going to be ever in a situation that I have been in since I was 19 to 32. Like that was, and it was such, those years are such formative years as a young adult. You think that teenagers, yes, there's formative years younger, but you're still like going at like Mach 10 during those years where you're forming your adulthood. And I was doing it in this constant state of anxiety and fear and unsurety and like with children and all of this. Like I didn't know how to navigate it. And I wanted to slow it down and slow myself down so I could meet a partner that wasn't at all like Courtney. And so I did. I
So
did the work.
did you have any in between? Did you continue? Did you that pattern persist after him? Did you find
No,
yourself in other relationships? You didn't allow it. That was one and done. You did
no.
enough.
It was like literally when after Courtney, so because I was with him since I was 19 and then I was now in my 30s and making money. And I was like, in 19, I was coming off of like drugs and a very ugly assault. And then I met him and I'm like, he's my savior. And then, so
And he
I
was
was
far
in
from
this
it.
like state of just trying to navigate and figure it out. So I had to find myself in this, like find myself, like find Krystina while I was dealing with this and then find the strength. And also, you know, with growing up being told that I was always over exaggerating, I'm too much, all of the things that I was told I had to navigate through while I was in this abusive marriage and then have to find the strength to be like, you know what? I'm done with this shit. I actually am a good person. I have strength. My ability to talk to strangers and go out and have this energy and have this like this lively personality is not a bad thing. It's actually
No.
perfect for sales. So it's like,
So you were able to find that while you were still in the marriage? So before you even left him, like, I'm hearing, like, how do we work on it? Typically, we have to remove ourselves before we can
I
start.
removed myself first. It just started like I got my job at this media company 3 weeks before I left him. And then I was like, I know.
So was that the ticket you needed? Was that was the ticket to freedom? That was, I could see how that would be very empowering to find something and realize I'm good at this and I can do it and I actually don't need him. So
Yes,
was that the getting that job was the
it
catalyst
was.
for, yeah,
Yeah, it was the ticket because a lot of people are, I find a lot of people are afraid to work on a commission in a commission job because commission is one of those jobs that you tend to be in a state of chaos, in a state of like you're 100% control. You don't just get to go to work and have a bad day and you're still getting paid the norm,
right.
right? So
Yeah. Commission's
but it's
scary.
also exciting and, you know, closing sales, it's a huge rush. It's great for people with ADHD. It's different all the time. You're always like kind of working towards something. So it was the first time that I was like 100% in control as much as I could be outside of things that were happening in the world, but I was 100% in control. I knew that if I worked hard, I'd make more money and I could support my
Right.
kids.
That's
And
control. Yeah.
I never got any money from him. He never paid child support. He never did anything. So I was like alone with my kids. And I had to make sure that they were going to, like, I could pay bills and I had to feed them. So the strength and that came after,
Yeah.
like right after. And with the help of, you know, a good therapist and doing well in my job, I realized that I'm worth more because before I didn't feel like I was worth anything. And I'm like, I'm actually worth a lot more. So it also changed how I dated. So when I was single, I dated a lot and
That
I
one
had a
before.
really good time. And I was in my 30s, I was making good money, I was dating, I was having lots of sex, but I never really brought anybody into my kid's life. I was very separate. And because I also had a lot of friends at that age, it was like that first wave of divorces for the Gen Xers. Oh, they were all in their 30s, divorced. And I was watching these other women bring these men into their lives, moving them in or moving them and their kids, like moving in together within a few months. And I realized that kids don't date. Kids don't date. They
No.
fall in love and
Yep.
that's it. So I was like, I'm not doing that. And then I met Amos, my current husband. 17 years ago. And before I met him, I wrote this insane list and it was 2 pages long. And I wrote everything that I wanted for a partner. I didn't write the things I would look at what I didn't want, but then I would look at, I was like, okay, how do I switch that over to a positive? So if I don't want this and I want that. So then I wrote this and it was like a 2 page, like back and forth, like 2 pages. And I think there was like, I don't know, 50 things on it. And every time I'd go out on a date, I'd read the list after and I'd be like, "Oh, this guy is going to be a good night for tonight or dinner or maybe a 3 weeker because he's hot or whatever, but they never would equal the list. And when I met Amos, he was the list.
He had 50 traits that you
He had
wanted?
49 of
My
the 50.
goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
49. I started really kind of going down the book The Secret kind of came out, but that was something that I always kind of followed in my head is creative visualization, manifestation. If you believe it, feel it, see it,
Yeah.
taste it, all of it. And I would do those things with the things that I wanted in my life after my divorce. And I would really I would go for these long walks and just imagine what it would be like to be with somebody that was genuine and loving and caring and nonviolent and 6'5" with a beard, which is exactly what he is. And like,
You found him.
strong and big that could protect me from everything and all these kind of things. And then I met him and I was like, holy shit, I'm getting married. I'm in love
Did you know? Did you feel it right from day one?
immediately.
Yeah,
Day one. Yeah.
amazing.
And so yeah, he ended up so we ended up dating and I ended up introducing him to my kids and we actually never lived together until we got married. So he comes from a religious background. He's not a practicing strong religious person, Christian, but he came from a religious background. He's a couple years younger than me. And he never lived with a woman, never been married, no kids. And here's me, divorced mother of two, with a mouth like a trucker and drinks like a fish and out there and like working in media and all this kind of stuff. And he was like from the like boonies. And I didn't want to put that on my kids. And he didn't want to live with somebody before marriage. So we didn't live together before
And
marriage.
how long was that? How long were you dating before you got married?
A year and 10 months. Yeah. And then we got married and moved into our house that we're in right now in Lake Country. And then a whole new challenge came because he never been married, had never had kids. And I came with like, surprise, it's a boy and a girl, and they're preteen.
I was gonna ask how old preteens. Okay.
Yeah, they were 9 and 12 when we got married. So that was a big challenge to have
I
him
bet.
come into the kids and like navigate that. And during that time, my ex-husband, he is a severe alcoholic. He has been in and out of intensive care for basically drinking himself to death. And then
Jeez.
they put him on life support and allow him to go through the DTs. If anybody knows what severe alcoholism looks like, that's exactly what it looks like. And so the delirium tremens is what it's called, the DTs. And he's been in 9 comas.
Oh my gosh.
9.
Sorry, he's still alive or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. We're all
So he
shocked.
well, he survived that big fall,
Yeah.
and so a lot of brain trauma, and then he's been in
9 times.
my goodness.
I know. I think he's in prison right now. Or, yeah, he might be in prison right now. The father of my children.
No relation
So,
kids don't have a relationship with him?
no.
Hard.
Well,
Yeah.
Amos I mean, they've had this kind of distant relationship with him over the years, where they go see him, then see, because his parents live here and they usually are taking care of him. So they'll go see them all together, never just like my ex on his own. So that went on for quite a few years. My children are 27 and 25 now. So they're grown. So
So, Christina, was there moments where it was so challenging? Like, was there days when you didn't know how you were going to pick yourself back up, or like, yeah? Can you tell it like a little bit about that? Did you have seasons where there was a heavier dip and it was hard to get out and you had to pull yourself out?
yes, there were times where I, didn't think I was gonna make it through. I went through some pretty dark thoughts and thinking that but sometimes I wouldn't be able to get out of bed for days. I'd go through periods of some pretty strong depression still that I have to pull myself out of, usually in the winter when it's dark out. February, March are usually my worst months. And I have to pull myself out. It takes a lot. Like I still struggle with it to this day. Like, they say the most outgoing, funny people tend to carry this weight, and unfortunately, I'm one of them. So,
It would be so
yeah,
hard not to. Like, yeah, there's resilience, but you're still a human being. And
yeah,
so, if somebody's listening today and they're going through the storm right now and they're going, I don't know how I'm going to, and they're having those dark days, like, can you think of what are the ways that you were able to get through this? How do you even now, if you're having those darker days, what allows you to come a little bit out of the light? What's
I
some
would say
wisdom we could give here to our listeners?
one of the things that I've learned because I'll dive just a little bit in over the last few years. One of my children went into the wrong crowd, and a few years ago and I don't want to say which ones, they were really hanging out on Leon and downtown with a lot of homeless kids and stuff like that. And at one point, they went missing. And so those are some dark times that I was having to deal with. And I literally would lay on the floor in my bathroom and cry, thinking that my child is dead. My child is not coming home. So I went through that, and that was really difficult. And or even in the last like few years with like dealing with my dad and my business. And so I run a wine tour company so we're seasonal, and we hit COVID and all sorts of things that have been incredibly challenging. I think the thing that I have learned is even in the darkest moments, the feelings that I have, the worst, like, and there's been times I honestly have been sitting in my vehicle down at the lake thinking I could just walk into the lake
Yeah.
and that'll be it. Like, I'm done with my life. I'm done. And then a voice or a feeling or, the back of my head says, you know what? This moment will pass. Give yourself some grace. Go home.
That's hard to find in that moment, Christina, to
It's
be.
really hard, but if you can give yourself grace, one of like my word of this year is grace. And I said to myself, I'm giving myself grace. I'm giving myself grace. So even if you can find the littlest thing in those days, like there's been days in my life where if I get out of bed and like, I don't know, make myself a meal that I enjoy, then it's a win. So if you could find the tiniest little win for that day and be like, you know what, this is what I'm going to focus on. This
Yeah,
is a win
I love that.
today.
Get tiny, because that's easy to find. If we even say win, that's too difficult in that moment, but I love that. Just something tiny, little
Just
one.
something tiny that you can look back, or I guess it's a win or be grateful for. Like even today, I was like, wake up. I'm like, okay, today I'm going to go to the gym. Like I'm not like a heavy gym goer or anything like that. Or if I can do a breath work or I can, go for a walk, or even if I can't even go for a walk and it's sunny outside, I'll go sit on my patio and sit and have the sun come on me. And I'll be like, okay,
That feels good. Yeah,
this
find some.
feels good. I'm
Yeah,
grateful for this. So I think finding like something gratitude is a big one. And it's really hard when you're
it is.
down in it to find gratitude. Like,
Yeah,
but we think that we need to be grateful for like, oh, I'm grateful for my house and this and that. No, you can be grateful for the sun on your face.
mhm,
You can be
yeah.
grateful for the coffee you pour. You can be grateful for breathing. You can be grateful for your body being able to walk, like, that that you can, like, the tiniest, like, whatever you have to find gratitude, I think is the way you slowly, and and it's a slow process. You can't just suddenly be like, "Oh yeah, I'm grateful. I feel, everything is, happy roses and I'm going to go about my day." Sometimes it's these tiny little things, and then you have to go to bed, and then you're like, "Okay, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to be grateful because I'm in a bed
Yeah.
and I'm going to go to sleep. I'm grateful for the day to be over."
Right? Yeah, some days
Yeah.
are that way. Yes,
Yeah.
no, I love that because I'm picturing you at the water now, and I'm going,
Yeah.
is it the resilience that you had to face in the years prior that allow you when you can make it through those big storms, then you can sit at that lake and go, "This is just a moment in time. This is going to pass. This isn't forever," and you can pull yourself out. When we almost get grateful for our past challenges because of what the strength that they allowed us and the learning lessons and everything, to me, that's the biggest. Like, when you can be in a place of gratitude for your challenges, like, that's the biggest, I think, tool that you can carry with you for the rest of your life because you know you can always make it through.
Yep. I also think that crying it out really helps too.
Yeah, feel it. You
Like,
have to.
cry it, feel it,
Yep.
scream in your car, the whole thing, or wherever you are in your house. I have screamed in my house. I've screamed in my car. I've cried and sobbed. Holding it in, I don't think that's really healthy because we feel like we have to put on this persona of strength out there. And if you are like with someone like me, where I am very public facing, and everything that I've done since I left my husband, every job I've had, I'm very public facing. So people have this idea that I'm like super strong and all this, and I am very resilient, but in those moments, sometimes screaming and crying and just letting it out because it's a cathartic release. If you can't do it with another person or with like, even I've had trouble like trying to, break those, like break that barrier even with some therapists. I have to do it like alone, but there is this like, it's like a wash over, like you cry and you just let it out and you just, that moment, and then you feel like this release and relief. I think that being able to, allow those feelings to be felt is very, very important, no matter how you come about it. Lots of times I think very strong women tend to do it alone because they don't want to bother their family, their partners, their friends. They don't want to mess with the persona that they've given the world. So they decide that, you know what, like, I can't cry to my friends. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to put this on them because they have their own shit going on. So sometimes you just have to cry it out alone, and it
Yeah.
feels good.
You're right, and so to release it from your body and not carry it anymore, and also, to me, that is strength, being able to sit with yourself and feel it because that is hard to do, and so strength isn't holding it back and just pretending like everything's okay. Strength is being able to sit with those emotions, feel them, because that's the hard stuff. Yeah.
I also think strength comes through vulnerability. Being vulnerable is truly being strong in a lot of ways. Like, if you can be vulnerable, and whoever you decide to be vulnerable with, that, like, being able to be fully vulnerable with another human being is truly a way of showing strength to yourself.
Yeah, because it's very hard. You're opening yourself up and allowing them to see sides of you that, yeah, are scary. Oh,
Yeah.
Christina, this was like such a valuable conversation. I'm hoping it's going to help so many people. So, if I kind of summarize it, it's resilience comes from knowing like it's a time and place. It isn't going to be like this all the time. Feel the feels. Don't get trapped in those emotions. Don't carry them forever. Seek therapy. Work through your challenges. Learn about yourself. You talked about self-worth, and that's where it all begins.
Yeah.
Practice gratitude and find like small little snippets. Even on the darkest days, find, something to find gratitude or joy or something. And just, even if it's the tiniest little thing, like a little bit of sunshine coming through that window, or, you know, you didn't say it, but like a little, maybe a small ice cream cone or whatever is going to bring
Whatever.
you just some joy.
Yeah.
Find something to be grateful. And
And
yeah, so
also give yourself grace. I
yes,
think grace is very important.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the
You're welcome.
show, and it was
You're
a great
welcome.
conversation.
Yeah.
That's it for today's episode of Worthy and Rewritten. If you enjoyed what you heard, please hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. I'm on a mission to help as many people as I can wake up their worth and build lives they don't need to escape from. So please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, if your gut has been screaming that there's more for you, listen to it. You're not too old, too late, or too far gone. You're right on time. See you next time.